This week, first up is a technical segment called Paul's Linux Hacks. I finally got around to releasing a bunch of scripts and tutorials for Linux that I've created over the past few years. We'll go over those scripts, and I'll give you a supply chain security report, help you update your Arch-based Linux systems, and a tutorial for using Linux KVM. Then in the security news, controlling 7,000 robot vacuums, Curl finds not all AI is bad. Palo Alto says these are not the ties to China that you were looking for. Bloomberg writes an article that sheds light on Ivanti. Looking for Bluetooth Low Energy is apparently a trend. Don't use AI to generate passwords. New research on hacking Samsung TVs. It's not all about the gadgets. Ring's new bug bounty. Paul will be voted as the Prime Minister of Denmark. I apologize to our Danish friends. It's not really true, but it could be fun to talk about. Hacking AI. AI does some hacking, and hackers are talking about AI. All that and more on this episode of Paul's Security Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly. Zero Trust is clearly the future as threats get faster, quieter, and harder to detect. But implementing it shouldn't disrupt the business. ThreatLocker enforces default deny and execution in a way that remains enterprise-ready, scalable, and operationally clean. Unknown software is stopped cold, trusted apps stay contained, and drift is locked down across the environment. It's Zero Trust that works in real enterprises and prepares you for the threats ahead. See why CISOs are adopting it at securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker. Ever feel like your network infrastructure is stuck in the past? Meet Meter, the company reimagining what it means to get and stay online. Meter delivers full-stack networking, wired, wireless, and cellular, all in one seamless, scalable, and secure solution. From hardware design and firmware to software, deployment, and support, Meter streamlines every part of your network while giving you all the control and transparency you need. Whether you're managing a branch office, retail stores, or a massive data center, Meter gives you performance, reliability, and the visibility you need to stay in control. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Go to securityweekly.com/Meter to book a demo now. That's securityweekly.com/Meter, METER. Coming to you from a very snowy Hacker Syndicate studios, this is Paul's Security Weekly. It's episode number 915, being recorded on Wednesday, February 25th, 2026. I'm, of course, your host, Paul Asadorian, joined by Mr. Bill Swearingen. Bill, welcome.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's good to have you, man.
Yeah,
Mr.
I remembered. Yeah,
you remembered now.
Today is Wednesday.
Bill some reminders.
It's
all good.
All day. Yeah,
it's all good. Mr. Larry Pesci is here with us.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks, but yeah,
back in the saddle. Love it. Mr. Lee Neely is here with us. Lee, welcome.
Hey, good to be back. Hey, Bill, you're too young for CRS. Let's have a fun time.
And saving the best for last, Miss Mandy Logan is here with us. Mandy, welcome.
That's incredibly gracious of you. And I'm looking forward to the KVM thing. And when reading through your GitHub, I realized KVM could be like knowledge voids morality.
Yes, it's an overloaded acronym for sure. For sure. Yeah. Let me share my screen. Actually, you know what? First, I got to read some announcements. Security Weekly listeners can save $100 on their RSAC 2026 All Access Pass. The RSAC 2026 conference will take place March 23rd through March 26th in San Francisco. You can register using the discount code by visiting securityweekly.com/RSAC26. Use the code 56U5SecWeekly. Most security conferences talk about threats. Zero Trust World even lets you attack them. From March 4th through the 6th in 2026 in Orlando, Florida, this hands-on cybersecurity event features live hacking labs where you break real environments, think like an adversary, and learn how attacks really work. You'll also get expert sessions, real-world case studies, CPE credits, and networking with top practitioners. And yes, much of the Security Weekly team will be there too. Don't miss it. Register today at securityweekly.com/ZTW. Fantastic. Alrighty, now let me share my screen and let you in on some Linux hacks. Apparently, Linux is one of the favorite topics of our audience, according to the polls. So when I set out to do a technical segment, I'm like, you know what? This year, the first technical segment, I'll finally get around to uploading all the random scripts and at least one tutorial. I have more to add to this repository, and I'll just keep adding to this as time goes on. And so today I created the first cut of it with scripts that I had, and what I thought was interesting. So you can get the link in the show notes to my GitHub repository, and you can get all these scripts, the tutorials. You can submit me pull requests, and I might look at them eventually. I promise I'll look at them eventually, but I'm not making any promises on the time frame. But I wrote a lot of these scripts, some of them before I was using AI to help me code heavily. I also once I had like Claude code, I had Claude just go through all of them. I'm like, go read all these scripts and make some recommendations for me to approve. And so I told Claude, make that change, but don't make that one, and what have you. I had like the KVM one was just a random text document with like a bunch of my notes and commands in it that I use for setting up virtual machines using Linux KVM, QEMU, and libvirt. And so I told it, I'm like, take that document, make it a markdown file, and like make it look pretty and add some context to it. And I thought it did a great job of that. And then I was like, I hate Git. I'm like, can you just do the Git thing for me? I'm like, do that thing for me. I need a new repository. I don't even remember how I'm logged in. Like, go check what my credentials are. I'm like, here's where it needs to go. And it was like, nope, you're actually authenticated to that. You're all good. And it created the GitHub, and then it adds itself as a contributor. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. I think, Bill, you had a story about Claude being increasing member of the community as a contributor to GitHub, which is great.
Yep. Yeah. So, I think we probably talked about that, but the article is right now in the research, Claude has contributed 4% of all commits that are going into GitHub right now.
That's
like
crazy.
that's.
Yeah.
Do you know the time frame? You just mean like daily?
I don't, but they do expect that reading through the article, they expect obviously for that to increase, right? And they think that it will have contributed somewhere around 26% of all code on GitHub by the end of 2026.
That's crazy.
Yikes.
So there's some interesting scripts in here. I'll start with some of the non-security ones, just gloss over those quickly. If you run Bamboo Studio on Linux, you run into some interesting things, and there was like a bunch of forum posts that are like, you need to run it like with this environment variable set and with these flags. And basically I took all those tutorials and I created a script, and then Claude like did its thing and made it pretty and added some functionality to it. So if you're running Bamboo Studio on Linux, that's one to take a look at, because it fixes like dark mode for some reason. At least on GNOME, didn't work right. So it is able to start up Bamboo Studio not in dark mode, which fixes some things. So there's some like little hacks in there, which is good.
So looking at this script, Paul, so I don't have a Bamboo printer, but if you did, so a lot of times with Linux scripting, it's very specific to your deployment. Would this work for anybody with a Bamboo printer and a Linux box? Or
it should, yeah, it should be pretty. It's a great question, Bill. It should be pretty universal. Again, the tutorials I found weren't specific to Linux configurations, but certainly also keep in mind that I use Arch-based Linux distributions, so these are all kind of tailored towards that. There is some Ubuntu stuff because I do also use Ubuntu as well, so that's kind of sprinkled in there. If you're using a different Linux distribution, you definitely want to do some testing. Gotcha. And if you notice something, you're like, hey, when I ran it on Fedora, I noticed these things, let me know, send me a pull request, and we'll get it updated.
And not to derail a little bit too on the Bamboo stuff too. I was working on a project that totally got vibe coded, shared with you guys in Signal a couple weeks ago, and turns out that the stuff that I had, there's no case for this stuff, and I want to hang it on the wall. So I told Claude CLI that I had this device, and this is how it was configured, and could you generate me an STL so that I can 3D print picture frame for this?
Mm-hmm.
And it did?
Yep, it can.
Wow.
It can.
Yeah, it's pretty. I haven't
yeah.
used it for that yet, but it definitely can. I've heard you and one of my coworkers say that works really well.
Yep. I have not printed it yet, but it is it is in the queue to be printed.
Yeah.
Neat.
One of my kind of legacy ones in there is my reset audio script. I used to have heinous audio problems on specifically one of my computers, and well, it's weird. What fixed it was a BIOS update, which is just weird. But like my USB audio and audio subsystems would just basically freak out. So I created this script to like go restart everything. So if you need that, it's there. Media backups. I have like 2 external hard drives, and I like to take files and data and spread it across both of them as a backup. Like one's a full RAID array, one is just like a single drive USB one. They're both around 20 terabytes. And so I just wrote a script that automatically backs up to both of them as kind of like a poor man's backup solution. And so I always forgot the syntax to rsync. Like I wanted specific syntax in rsync, and so in that script is like the specific syntax. Sometimes I go back and just to get the syntax from it. So it's interesting. It's actually the genesis of technical segments on the show. Like I had a problem, so I solved it, and now I'm sharing with the community what I did. So those are kind of like the non security related ones that are there. The one that's
Wait,
really,
I have a quick clarifier.
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Real quick. So, because I'm not in your GitHub right now. So, you were talking about the audio. Is that the same as the media backup one? That's the one I was really looking at earlier.
They're different. Yeah. Media backup is
Okay,
to rsync to 2 different places, and then reset audio basically restarts all your audio subsystems in Linux.
Okay. And what prompted you to do the media one?
I mostly photos. So when I take photos of my kids' sports, like an hour soccer game can easily be anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 photos, roughly. And so because you're shooting in burst mode, right? And then I save it to the CF card, which is super fast, write speeds. And it's writing the RAW file and the JPEG file. So for every picture, there's 2 files, and those files can get really big. So I didn't want to lose any photos. So, that's one way that I back them up. I'm also experimenting with Amazon AWS Glacier storage to have a backup of those as well offsite. So that's really what prompted it, was the copious amounts of photos that will result in even just one kid's sporting event. So, let's see. So the update.sh one, we can hit that quickly because I've covered that on the show before. This is an improved version from what I have posted before. It does all kinds of stuff. It automatically cleans the cache. It refreshes your mirrors. It does the package updates. It checks to see if any packages need to be rebuilt. So for example, if you did a full system update and it updates Python to a new version, there will be packages that aren't set to use the new Python interpreter and need to be updated. So it'll actually identify those packages for you and help you recompile them. If it changes system files, it'll create like a new system file and say like, hey, the package that you updated actually changed one of its configuration files. You still have the old version, so you need to go potentially update to the new one or merge the changes. So it tells you which of those files you need to look at. It does FWD firmware updates. And the new feature, one of the new features is it does kernel management. So from the command line, you can upgrade and or remove kernels, especially when you're on a rolling release, like an Arch-based Linux distribution. You're going to get a lot of new kernels. I tend not to go to the latest experimental one. I wait until there's at least like a .1 release. And then I try, also a tip is to keep at least 3 kernels. In case you're booting your kernel and it doesn't work, you can fall back to one of the older ones. And so there's stuff in that script to help you manage that, which I use that script pretty much every day. Top grade is also good. I think I covered that in a technical segment as well. I may actually integrate top grade into the update script because it updates some things that my script does not. So that's definitely some updates to that, ironically, update.sh script. One of the really cool ones that I actually forgot that I created This is based on my Linux cheat sheet. And so I created these cheat sheets at Eclipsium a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. And they're basically commands that you can run either natively in your operating system or install or acquire third-party tools that allow you to check your supply chain, right? So it's like, what TPM do you have? And, how is it configured? And are there vulnerabilities associated with it? What CPU do you have? And have you applied all the microcode updates? And there's some interesting things in that script that I learned along the way. For example, Linux will actually report if your CPU has vulnerabilities and is missing microcode updates as a little checker thing for it. It'll also do that for other hardware as well. When you run FWUpd, actually, it'll tell you if your firmware has misconfigurations or missing security features. It'll tell you if you have secure boot enabled or not. And it'll give you information about the packages. It'll do a package integrity check. So, and I'm still trying, I need to research the results from this, but there's ways in Arch Linux and in other distributions that looks at all of your packages, checks the official MD5 checksum, and says the package you have doesn't match that checksum. So that functionality is in there as well. It gives you your hardware inventory, right? So whatever hardware you have in your system, ICs or whatever it is, it'll try and report on that and tell you what hardware that you have in there. So I was I ran this script earlier and I was like, oh, that's actually kind of neat. I actually have to go through and install some of the utilities. So there's some dependencies in here, like Intel ME, for example. If you have an Intel processor and it supports the Intel Management Engine, it'll give you a status on that, but you have to install a third-party tool to make that work. So I was kind of super impressed with this, and this was vibe coded. I basically just told Claude, I'm like, go look at my cheat sheet and then create me a script for Linux that implements all the commands that are in the cheat sheet. And so I did the work, and I just had Claude basically transpose that into a shell script that you can run. So that one's super cool. I'm actually kind of impressed with it.
So does this allow you to, will this guy go and install the tools it needs to do the other work, or will just say, hey, you don't have it? Yeah,
this version does not. I could have it, prompt you for that. I could probably, what I would do is create a routine that runs first, that does a dependency check. And I'd probably prompt Claude to I'm like, hey, go create a new function that basically checks for all the things that you need and then recommends how the user should install them. I mean, I could also have it install them, but that feels kind of dirty too.
Well, I'll only install them with permission.
Yeah. It could be a prompt like, hey, do you want to just go ahead and install them? And you just hit click yes, and it installs them.
Oh crap! You installed the dirty version.
Right. Oops. And then your integrity check would fail on the package. So yeah, that one's. I was again kind of impressed with that, and I had forgotten about it. What else do we have in here?
KVM.
Yeah, so the KVM stuff is really awesome. I actually love. This is my second iteration of implementing Linux KVM, and I'll give you a little bit of background on the project. So I was tasked at work actually to create some attack demos to build an environment where there are vulnerable virtual machines that represent network security appliances. So many of the network security appliances, you can buy them as hardware, or you can implement them as a virtual machine. So in my two examples, I was looking at Fortinet and Cisco FTD, or Firepower Threat Defense. And for both of those products, they actually give you Linux KVM, specifically the QCOW2 virtual machine images for those products. And so based on that, I was like, well, I need to do Linux KVM. And then in that same environment, I wanted to put our product, right? So Eclipsium makes a product for, analyzing and interrogating your firmware and also network edge devices. And so I wanted that in the environment as well. So as I'm basically hacking into things, I have the product detecting that I've, changed the integrity of the firmware on a Cisco FTD device, as an example. So there's like a monitoring component. So that was like two more virtual machines on there. And then future iterations will include Active Directory, right? Because these SSL VPN appliances will use authentication from Active Directory. And if you trace back the threat actor campaigns, it's very common across multiple network edge vendors and across multiple threat actor campaigns. They basically exploit the device, implant malware, and their post-exploitation activities are collecting VPN credentials. So some of them are like, as people are logging into the device, it's hooking the authentication process and writing out users' credentials in clear text. Other ones, like the demo I did earlier, sniff the network for basically NTLM-v2 credential password hashes, and then crack the hashes, and then they pivot. Since they have a VPN into your environment now, then they can pivot into your internal network and use those credentials to access other resources. So I was trying to emulate that. Active Directory will be next. So Linux KVM is really awesome because you can script it. One of my coworkers is way better with it than I am, and just creates, like, he created one where basically you can have a clean image, then run these commands to infect it, and then just like reverse it using all the Linux KVM technologies, which is super cool in a lab environment. So this tutorial is really how to set it up, and a little bit on using it. It's super powerful and very involved. Like, there's a lot of reading you have to do. I like VMware, like VMware Workstation. It's free. It runs on Linux, and point click. You got VMs. You can take snapshots. Super easy to use. But this is basically gives you the same performance because the kernel module is built into Linux, and it runs everything natively. And these machines are super, super fast when they start up, moving them around. Like, it's really awesome. The first thing you want to check, though, and this actually happened to me when I was reading up on it, doing my second deployment, the documentation was like, make sure that your CPU supports virtualization, and also make sure that it's enabled. So make sure that virtualization feature is enabled in your CPU. So in Intel, it's VTX. In AMD, it's AMD V. And what I had to do actually on my system, it was an Intel i9, is I had to go into the BIOS and I had to enable it because it wasn't enabled. So make sure that you do that. And then it runs so fast. It's really awesome. And then there's instructions for disabling sleep. You're going to have to install a lot of prerequisites for this to work, including all the components. I don't know. There are ways to check if the modules are installed in your kernel. However, if you're running a pretty modern kernel, these modules should be there and available. I'm not sure that it put those checks in there. I'll have to update it because I did check my kernel to make sure that it actually had the right modules for running it. And then you get the Virt Viewer and Virt Manager. So this does give you a graphical interface that you run, and allows you to spin up virtual machines, take snapshots, very similar to VMware Workstation. You can also do all of that stuff on the command line as well. So this kind of walks you through. I've deployed this mostly to Ubuntu systems. Because I have VMware Workstation running on this computer, I have a different computer. That one's actually Arch-based, and then I've got another one that's Ubuntu that I've done. But you don't want to mix virtualization technologies. You can have them installed on the same system. You just don't want to run them at the same time. Like, everything I read was like, it's great. Like, you can have VMware Workstation, you can have KVM, but you have to load and unload those kernel modules depending on what you want to use. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave VMware Workstation on this computer, and then I'm going to use a separate computer, and it's just going to run the KVM.
So a few years ago, it used to be the thing, you go grab yourself the ESXi hypervisor and then run your VMware on it. And it was really, really fast. This seems like it might even be faster than that. And you have more control.
Yeah, I mean, I was spinning up, so you can download right from, in fact, it's in the documentation, I think even the URL and where to get it from, somewhere in here. Yeah, so you can just grab them from cloud-images.ubuntu.com, and you can download this image, and then with one command, you convert it into a KVM VM, a QCOW2 file, and then there's instructions on how to load that. Basically, you create a configuration file. That configuration file loads an ISO file that's your pre-boot image. You can see right here, like I'm building an ISO image based off of my config. So you can add your SSH keys in there. You can add your host name. You can add your networking config. Then you build it into an ISO. And then when you run it, you tell it to use that ISO. And then you tell it which disk that you have, and it uses both of them. You can see that down here when you launch the VM. So that was super helpful, right? So what I love about this is if I need a specific version of Ubuntu, because whatever I'm doing needs Ubuntu 24 rather than 22, or it needs 22 or whatever, I can just go grab that image and spin it up. And I had 2 of these running in record time, and that's actually where I installed the Eclipsium product on, is on 2 of them.
I got distracted by sharks into a thing in Discord. But I do have another question on that. I'm curious. I noticed that you make sure to disable sleep. Is that just to avoid interruptions, or is there any kind of actual security reason for it?
Yeah, it's just to avoid interruptions.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want you, like, while your VMs are running, for it to go to sleep, because then it'll come back up and it could be a funky state.
Right. Okay.
The way sleep works on PCs is magic voodoo. It's really bad. It has to do, if you ever want to read something horrible, read about your S3 boot script, because essentially when your computer goes to sleep, it's trying to simulate a power down and saving the state, right? So when your computer boots up, it initializes all the hardware. So when you sleep, it's trying to save the state of all your hardware that was initialized, and not have to reinitialize everything, but just bring everything back up with the right configuration. And often it gets it wrong. When I read that, I was like, oh, that's why, like, sleep, especially on Linux, usually doesn't work.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Even not on Linux, like on any other operating system, right? It's kind of wonky when stuff goes to sleep and wakes up, and that's why. So you can go read about your S3 boot script, which is a UEFI feature to support suspend. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And with this setup, so do the VMs actually show up as normal machines on the network, like with independent IP addresses?
Yeah, they can. So for this one, I was trying to keep it simple and there is a networking config here. I was just trying to do bridge networking. And so here you can see, the networking stuff. So I was doing it as a bridge. Probably better, like, I'm rethinking that because I want to maintain vulnerable images. Right. And a lot of us in security and research would want to maintain something vulnerable. We don't necessarily want that on our network. Right.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Who's going to break into it? Right.
Just Bill.
Yeah. So you can do the other types of networking that are standard for virtualization. Right. You can do NAT and things like that. So I gotta do some reconfiguring of my network configuration. But yeah, it'll come up, and then it's your. So I was able to tell. Actually, I might not have worked.
But why did you do bridge if it was more steps than NAT? Did I miss that?
No, NAT would be a few more steps.
Oh, NAT would.
Yeah, because then you got to configure rules to get in and out. Right.
Right. Do you want to do NAT for those virtuals, or do you want to do host only? In other words, no external. Or only
the problem with that is I need to interface with physical machines. So this is actually, I love feedback on this. Right. I have the virtual layer, and if I build that in KVM, right, I'll have some vulnerable targets. I'll have my security software. I'll have my Active Directory environment. But then for some other portions of our demo and devices that don't have a virtual appliance, such as Cisco iOS XE as an example, you can be mistaken. Yes, you can run it as a virtual machine, but it's not real. It's fake. It's just for training. So if I want to test stuff on Cisco iOS XE, I need a physical appliance. Also, what I realized is that when you spin up something like Fortinet, as an example, in a VM, it's x86, right? It's running on the platform that you're running it on, so it ends up being x86. When you get a physical Fortinet appliance, like this one, as an example, I know that's a 40F or a 60E. I have one of each that I picked up on eBay. This is the 40F. This one is older, So it's an ARM32 based processor. So if you've got a memory corruption buffer overflow exploit and you want to manipulate memory in a ROP chain or have a payload different for x86 than ARM32, but also, and so what prompted that was some of the public exploits, they built ROP chains for ARM32, but not for x86. And it's super tedious and hard to take to cross platforms like that with your ROP chains, like mapping out the memory. You have to look at the binary, and then you have to map the memory locations and tell it where to jump around. That is not cool. So some of the public exploits are for ARM32. So I'm like, well, I need a physical appliance as a target. So now back to the virtual environment, you've got some stuff virtual and some stuff physical. So somehow I have to cobble that all together.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working on building. So what else we got in here? And you can do Kali too. One of my previous instances, Kali's great. You know, they've got an image that you can just download and it runs. It's pretty awesome. And then VM management, you can manage your disks, so you can add storage. That's the other thing too, is manage your storage appropriately, because some applications require more storage than others. And while you can expand and shrink storage, it's kind of a pain in the butt, and it's a lot of commands. And your vir sh command, that's what's going to give you all of the control over managing your snapshots. So on the command line, you can take snapshots, right, and do all kinds of stuff. You can dump into the console of a system, which is nice. It's always nice to have that console. It's interesting how, you know, a lot of the VMs from network edge vendors, the like not so secret thing is it's just Linux on the covers. So when you're on the console and you boot up the VM, you can see all the Linux, messages go by, which is nice. And then I've got some resources. So these are my original resources for this. There's a lot of tutorials on how to do this. And again, these are just kind of my notes as to how I set it up, and I'll continue to refine them over time. You will also, this SSH key setup. So like I run Linux KVM on a separate machine, and then I configure the client on my Arch-based computer, which is separate. And so you'll need to configure an SSH key and then have your command for virt manager right there, which like I always forget. So I put that in a shell script. And that over SSH logs into, so you run virt manager on your client, and over SSH, it connects to your KVM server and lets you manage all of your VMs remotely, which is pretty awesome. And the interface is pretty good. It lets you dump into the console. It lets you change the configuration. It lets you modify the config file basically in the web in the UI, I should say. So definitely, if you're looking at virtualization technology and you haven't played around with Linux KVM, come here, read through the tutorial, and get it set up. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. One of the other technologies I was looking at was Ludus too. Ludus is interesting. Luda. It's we've talked about on the show before, right? It's kind of like the same thing. You've got an XML file that describes your environment and all of your machines, and I believe it uses Proxmox on the back end. So I'm kind of toying with, do I stick with the KVM stuff, or do I go to Ludus because it has tutorials on how to create like Active Directory environments?
I think you're only allowed to use it if you're named Chris, though.
Right.
No, time for a name change.
Yep. Sorry, Paul.
Sorry.
That's it. Change the name of the show, everything.
Chris 1, 2, 3, 4.
So that's it. I've got more tutorials now that I think about it, like hanging around in like my documents. So I'm basically going to use this repository to document those, keep them updated. It's basically like notes for myself because I forget things. I document and I got to go back to it. I'm like, how did I do that again? In fact, one of my coworkers was just asking as the show started, how do I remove all the Docker things from there? And like, I have a script, which I'll put here, which you have to use like caution when running. But I have a script that removes all of your containers, all of your container images, all of your Docker networking, and all of your volumes. in like one script. So it's basically like nuke Docker from orbit and then start over. But obviously you want to use that with caution.
That's the best way to reclaim hard drive space.
Yes. Oh, 100%. And the best way to solve problems too. Our product, runs a lot of Docker containers. And so sometimes I'm like, I just need to start over. Because I'm, testing all kinds of different versions of our product and stuff. I'm like, you know what? I just need a clean slate. And that's the clean. I probably should call it Docker clean slate because it does free up disk space, but also will wipe out anything that you have there before. So
I have 2 notes for you, Paul.
Yeah.
One, hey, when someone submits a pull request, just tell Claude to go look at the pull request.
There you go.
And see, so you don't. It's you did a long time of you were very gentle in saying, hey, I may get to your pull request. Those kind of things.
Right.
Man, that's a perfect use for Claude.
I love it.
Or whoever your agent is, right? And second, my guess is that, just looking at this audience or, the panel here of who's on here, if we were to say who's, prompt, like bash prompt or whatever your interpreter is, or your terminal is, who has the coolest prompt, right? I imagine there's a couple of us that will want to join that I think I'd be good. Ask Claude to make you a dope terminal prompt. It's incredible. Yeah. Say, hey, Claude, make my terminal better. I want a cool prompt and do all the cool tricks I want. Tmux tricks. I want terminal tricks. Yeah, man. It's great at that.
I agree. There's stuff that I need to do to customize Linux that I often just don't do. Right.
Yeah.
Customizing your terminal is absolutely one of them. Customizing your Vim or VI or whatever editor that you're using. I know that stuff is there, and I'm often just like, whatever. It comes with a terminal, and I can type commands in it, and I'm good.
Oh,
I'm
man,
not the one to go in. Even like the UI, like I don't do a lot of. You can. The nice part about Linux is you can customize everything and anything in your user interface and in your terminal.
I bet Larry's terminal. I bet Larry's terminal has like a Star Wars guy shooting and a lightsaber.
Not yet. But I'm asking Claude to do it right now.
Yeah. Well, also I need a script. I need a script that changes the terminal prompt for me, right? Because when I do demos, I'm like, I just want a $sign. Like I don't want any fancy thing but when I do my work, I want a fancier prompt, right?
I want my prompt to be most of the terminal with maybe just a little bit.
I mean, we have wide monitors, so you just make your terminal window wider.
That's right. But actually, so one of the things as you're kind of going through there, one of the things that does stand out to me is, in the new agentic computing world that we live in, I think it is really, really worthwhile for somebody to go and look at these scripts and see how they work, run them, learn them, right? So like all of those, looking at bash scripts and those kind of things and making your own, because quite honestly, a lot of times, I don't know how much you guys have been using OpenClaw and those kind of things. When you look at how the agents are working, man, they're setting crons, they're writing scripts, right? They're doing all of this kind of stuff. And when it doesn't go your way, well, it'd be nice if you understood how all that scripting worked.
Yes. 100%. Yeah, along those lines too, is I want to customize Claude so that it doesn't get as fancy with the scripting. Because oftentimes I'll prompt it, I'm like, this is what I want. And I'm like, okay, that is what I wanted. I'm like, but I don't need that level of fanciness, right? I mean, in some ways it makes it harder to read. Like I have to do a lot more reading and understand, like, I get why you're doing that. And there's a lot of error checking and things happening in that script that I would be way too lazy to code myself. That's oftentimes how I figure out someone used Claude. Is I'm like, wait, I know your code. I know your code.
25,000 line shell script.
I'll pick on Dave Kennedy, right?
File from here to there, right?
I know Dave's code because Dave's produced a lot of code, and he writes code like the rest of us before AI, like all of us do. I'm not picking on it. Like it's I'm not going to go write 100 more lines of code in a script and to get the same result, but AI will. And so that's how you can kind of tell that AI did it. And so like Dave's latest project, I'm like, I think you use Claude for that. And as well, you should. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think if you're writing shell scripts today, I mean, if you're learning is a different thing. I think like you're saying, Bill, right? Make sure you understand bash scripting first. Then you can start prompting the AI to create it for you and understand the output and what it's doing.
On a completely unrelated note, Bill, did you just drink out of a jar for tomato sauce?
So close. This was Old Smoky. It was an Old Smoky mason jar.
moonshine.
Yeah. Moonshine.
Okay.
But-
you get a pass.
But I am not kidding you, Larry. The next time I have tomato sauce, I am keeping that jar just for that. That is
Just to drink out of.
hilarious. Yeah.
Derailed. The one that we got to do at the karate studio a couple of years ago was we had gone through one of those bottles, the large bottles of Hershey's chocolate syrup, and I washed it out and I filled it with ice water and took it to the karate studio. And then it was like break time. I run over to my bag and I pull this thing out and I'm like, and everybody's looking at me like, what the hell just happened?
Oh my God, I love it. Larry's powered by chocolate syrup. Yeah, that's amazing.
Alrighty, so we're just going to transition right into the news for this week. How about that?
Nice.
Lots of great news happening this week. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we've got some awesome articles to cover. I'm really excited. Mandy, you created like a script.
I did.
You want to take us through like where you think we should start?
Okay, in reviewing them, I selected first, there were 3 stories that had to do with AI, and I think both of them, at least 2 of the stories had come out today, and I felt like those were the most important for the audience to be aware of. So let's start with, the first one was Paul's number 5. Checkpoint researchers expose critical Claude code flaws.
Yeah, this one was kind of scary because it preys upon something that I do in Claude code that I had not considered could be an attack vector. And that is, I will create a directory for my Claude project, right? Like, I'll give you an example. Create a directory, and this is going to house all of my Fortinet exploits.
Yep.
There's a lot of them. Actually, there's actually 6 that are super important, and I can cover those in a future show, right? So then I'm like, all right, these are my 6, and then I'm like, create a directory. Then I'm like, okay, git clone all of these exploit repositories into the directory, and then if there's any documentation or things related to my project, right? So if there's articles written about, let's say, the threat actors using these exploits, deploying malware, like add those articles. Maybe I create a file with some URLs in it. And then I run init in Claude, and it goes in and analyzes everything. And usually from that point, like it has a pretty good idea of what's in there and maybe suggest what I want to accomplish with it, right? And then I'll go like, hey, Claude, I want you to fix this exploit to do this, or, create this document, like create me a guide for exploitation of Fortinet. So then you can prompt it and do amazing things with it. But one of the vulnerabilities is prompt injection inside the GitHub repository. So if I'm pulling down that GitHub repository, and I'm like, why didn't I think of that? If that repository has some bad stuff in it, and now I'm analyzing with Claude, it can actually interact with Claude. And that was one of their greatest findings in that article.
Yeah, especially when you're cloning exploit code, right? It's already bad, right? So why
it's
not?
Already bad. Yeah. I do try to go through the exploit code because usually it's one file and it's like 100 lines. And I'm like, I go through and I'm like, cursory scan. Like, is there anything in here that could be damage my machine or is calling out, like, and search for certain functions? I could probably train Claude to validate it, right?
Yep.
If it hallucinates, it's going to miss something. So I always like to go in and just manually verify. But there's other times where I'm pulling in like full projects that are way more than 100 lines, and I'm just kind of hoping that there's nothing in there that could harm my machine through Claude. So that's a bad thing to do. But it's so do it in a VM. Now you know how to install and configure a Linux KVM, so you can do it in a VM. And then there'll be a VM escape or breakout that you have to watch for. But you lessen your risk, I think. I don't think it was anything. That's what I remember from that article. It's not one that I wrote up. I did read it though. API key theft through malicious repository level configuration files. Yeah. Triggered by simply cloning and opening an untrusted project. Yep. That was a good one. All right. What's next?
It is, I think it's Bill's number 6. Let me check.
Yeah, Bill, you had a couple of AI articles in there.
Bill's number 6. Hacker used Anthropic's Claude chatbot to attack multiple government agencies in Mexico.
Yeah. So what I really liked about this, this story comes from Engadget and it was released today. So the title is "Hacker Used Claude Chatbot to Attack Multiple Government Agencies in Mexico," and you kind of scrolling down, and basically he just kept on with Claude, just saying, "Hey, we're doing a bug bounty assessment of this website." It would push back. It would just continue to, and this person just continued pushing Claude to bypass the internal protections to actually perform the attacks. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is I imagine I don't know, probably most of us and most of the listeners, if you haven't tried agentic pen testing or those kind of things, like you will be soon, right? Yep. Like how do you have your agent doing your pen testing? I know that I've got that running for me, and I think I've come up with a very clever way of bypassing this. I don't know if I should say it on air or whatever, because
I know I have too. Yeah, because Claude Code will fight me some, especially when I'm telling it to modify exploits.
Yeah.
But I'm also kind of honest with it too. I'm like, look, I'm a security researcher. We have a product that has to detect this stuff. Like, I need a working exploit in order to exploit this target so I can do stuff. So then I can tune my product to detect that thing. And there's just some instances where I'm like, I just need a working exploit. And it's like, okay, I'll do that. I'll do that for you. Usually that works.
That was the approach. So when I was building the no recognition project, it was saying, "Hey, I don't want to build anything," and I would take that approach, right? I would say, like, "Look, I'm doing this for security research, and we can't make these things better if we don't know how to attack them." Those kind of things. It's kind of funny.
Does it do a background check on you? Like, can you say, "Look, hey, I'm Paul Sidorian. I work for Eclipsium, and I'm doing this." Like, does it go Google search you?
How would it verify you?
Right? Would it verify?
Isn't it wild that we're having to? Isn't it wild that we're having to like try and convince a computer to give me the info? Like, we're trying. Right. Well, I came up with something that just I get no pushback whatsoever. So I created so very, very similar to what you did, Paul, with your setting up your setup. I have a directory, and in there I have the skills and all those kind of things, and pen test, and so I wanted to run the stuff that takes forever, like amass and nuclei, and just
have you looked at ZMap and zgrab2?
I haven't seen zgrab2.
Yeah, so you run ZMap, right, which quickly can scan the internet, and then you take the results from that and you funnel it through zgrab2, and zgrab2 tells you what's listening on all those ports.
That's super cool.
And it both are tuned for like mass volumes of scanning.
So I taught my pen test agent that it's not allowed to do any work unless they receive written authorization for the pen test. And so then all I have to do is I create a little markdown file that says this is written authorization to perform pen test of whatever. And it never, it doesn't it never pushes back because it has written authorization to do whatever. And I got to tell you, man,
that's awesome.
It just runs. But anyway, this is going to continue, right? This is going to be the trend. And quite honestly, I think it's hilarious that we're even talking about, well, here's how I convince my AI to do the hacking or whatever. What that really, when you start thinking about the way that AI works is, that gate, whatever that gate is, that protection gate is right in front of us. Right. If we can get it past that gate, done. Right.
Someone told me that Claude has kind of actually backed off some of its protections based on requests from like U.S. government people and stuff like that, to be like, this is too useful. You need to relax some of your guardrails so that we can use it for security research. And I kind of agree with that, right? Like, why we're spending time like convincing it. Like, I tell Claude too. I'm like, dude, the exploit is public. Like, this isn't like,
Right.
I'm not asking you to go reverse engineer something and find an exploit, which by the way, it'll do as well. A little more convincing, but I'm like, this is a public exploit. This is a blog post that talks about the exploit. I'm like, help me out, put all the pieces together for me, and tune it like for this target or that target for security research.
So on that line, scroll down past the end of the article that Bill talked about, and there's an article about the Pentagon asking Anthropic to lighten up.
Right.
So they can do that very thing.
Well, and so they're kind of, the Pentagon and Anthropic are kind of at a stalemate.
It
as
seems
of today.
like
right. That's right.
Yeah. I just said here's an example right in frickin' front of us, right, of what you're talking about. I'm not taking sides on it. I can understand both sides, but hey, it's out there, and if
or we can just use Grok. I mean,
right. So Grok already signed. Grok signed with the Pentagon, no problem. Like, we're in.
I don't think Grok does. Grok even have guardrails? If they do, I haven't run up against them.
Not only
people
will I hack in, but I'll also make nude pictures of everybody I impacted.
Dude,
and I'll install copies of OpenClaw while I'm there, right?
I have to say, I was listening to Kostin on the Three Buddy Problem podcast, and much respect for Kostin. Great, all the member, right? Him and Juan, great security researchers. Ryan, they do a great job in their podcast. Ryan does a great job of directing them and putting on a great show. And Kostin was talking several weeks about how he uses Grok. And finally this week I was like, you know what? All right, I hear you. I'm going to go try it out. And I'm like, wow, it doesnand care.
So I got to tell you, Paul, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but so I'm using AI every day, and I'm pretty using every single model, but I haven't used Grok at all. I'm aware of it. I've never used it. So what's the interface to it?
I think that was some of my hesitation, Bill, is exactly where you're going, right? Like, I thought it was a thing that was specific to X, right? Because if you go on X, people will post something there, and then people will like interrogate Grok to be like, hey, is this real? They'll use it as like a guardrail for
that's what you thought.
what people are. Yeah. And so I'm like, I thought it was something really tightly coupled but it's actually an LLM just like anything else. So I created an account. You can use your X account or your Google account to authenticate to it, and then you can use it just like any other LLM. I also discovered there's an open source project that makes an LLI, a CLI for Grok.
Actually, let's just call it LL.
I just hallucinated that all on my own.
Yeah, because that's really what I'm doing in my CLI, so it might as well be
the LLI. Yeah. And so there's an open source one for that I installed and I haven't played around with yet. But I'm like, it really, the guardrails are very loose. And I had heard that. And so I won't say some of the things that I did with it. I can say that creating pictures with it is about a 20-second exercise, and you don't even have to get fancy with the prompts. And out of all the image generation ones that I've used, Grok is the best. And I'm just using it. I think I was joking with us privately, right, in our Signal chat. Like, I just use Grok for the lols. Like, I'm not doing anything serious with it. I'm just using it for the lols right now. But
and if you put it on unhinged mode, it is very intense. Like, it is actually pretty intense. And what I want to say in a strong point, I feel for Grok versus like Perplexity, Sonar, Claude, different ones that I have used. One thing I did appreciate was, at least in my instances with Grok, when I push it for what is it exactly doing with the data I'm inputting? What exactly, where is it being handled? How is it doing this? It was much more like in-depth, real, and methodical in telling me exactly how to remove all permissions for the data to go anywhere else. And I did like that versus some of the others that I keep trying. They're not as clear. It's just more like, it's more of a, oh, you'll be fine, honey. Like, kind of like, oh, we're not doing anything. It's okay. But I liked Grok being very firm on, hey, go through these steps then. If you want these like your data not to go elsewhere. This is what we recommend you do.
Yeah. You mentioned Perplexity.
I still would go to
and
Lumo.
I use Perplexity on this computer as my search engine. And it worked great for a while, but it's getting a little crusty now. Like it's not producing the results.
It's not keeping up.
Yeah, it's not. So I've got to adjust some of my, model kind of usage. Because I do use Perplexity to do research. I've got an awesome Perplexity space that writes content as me. And that still works pretty well. But I'm like, I wonder if I were to take that and go to a different model, if I could get it to produce content. But actually, Claude, interestingly enough, Claude is actually pretty terrible at creating content and writing as me. I actually started going down that road in Claude. I'm like, it's just not. I'm like, you write code, amazing, Claude, love you for that. But for generating like content, for example, a blog post or a social media post, it wasn't quite there. And I'm
Do you
using
think it
Perplexity
drifts
for that.
too much?
I don't know. It's like the
with
model's
Claude-
just not tuned for it, is what I feel like. But
Yeah.
So use Claude Code to create your code, and then Perplexity to document it,
yeah,
or write the tech doc.
write a blog post about it or write content about something. Perplexity is good. I mean, I fooled a couple of people that are like, you didn't use AI it looks like you wrote this yourself. I'm like, nope, Perplexity created that actually. But it goes like through fits and starts. Sometimes it creates great content, and sometimes it's like totally AI generated content. And I actually have modified that to be like, don't use any M dashes. Like when you write content, don't do that, because I don't write like that.
So don't do that. At it. I scream at
I
that.
use M dashes, so I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Which is fun.
And
Yeah, which is great.
When
I don't.
talk, people are like,
I don't
"Are you
either.
AI?" And I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
this is just how I talk." And
All right.
So
hey, all right. I need a word of advice. I just signed up for Grok, and I'm trying to make dirty images of Paul, but it's telling me my content is moderated. Trying to
I love
idea.
I
What's
love
the
how
trick?
I love how you're so dirty,
No.
Larry, that you got Grok to squawk at you and go, you can't do that.
Yeah, I wonder how dirty it was.
It wasn't that dirty.
Adjust your prompt. Adjust your prompt.
are you
Apparently.
on?
Well,
you're on
where
desktop?
Mandy mentioned YOLO mode, or what did you call it? Mandy?
Unhinged.
Yeah.
Unhinged.
Is that a mode in
On
Grok? I meant
Unhinged.
to ask you that.
Yeah,
That's
it
a mode
is,
in Grok?
but it may only be on the mobile app because I don't
Okay.
see it on the browser interface. I also have been using Grok 4.2 beta, which gives you 4 agents in one.
Okay.
I've been using that the last 2.5 weeks, and I would say in the last 4 weeks, in comparing with other models and other bots, that Grok in general has been giving a much better and more cohesive and correct response when it's using things that it's pulling from the web live.
Mm-hmm.
And then I use a number of bots that don't have any live interconnectivity to the web. But Super Grok, I would say try it out. Try the unhinged mode. And on the images, you can just go to I think what it's called, like the spicy mode. It'll just automatically, it just goes buck wild.
Yeah.
There's this. I didn't know there was a spicy mode.
Yeah, you don't have to say anything. You just say Paul Asadorian, and it's all like.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just
You remember what I put in our private chat, right? With Paul Asadorian? It just kind of does it. So if you're on, especially the Pixel.
I know what I was doing in ChatGPT. My friend's been stuck in Florida. So since we've had the storm, my friend has been stuck in Florida, and he posted a picture, basically to troll us. And he was in like a wetsuit with snorkel gear. And so to troll him back, I took that image and I started with ChatGPT. And I was like, put this person on the set of SpongeBob SquarePants. And ChatGPT was like, great. I'm like, I need more. I'm like, can you put him on the set of Jaws? And it's like, no, copyright violations. And it starts complaining. And I go to Grok, and Grok will put him in any movie, TV show, anything without any hesitation. So I've got my buddy Shane in every movie that has anything to do with water. He explored the Titanic. streets in his wetsuit with the snorkel gear on a snowplow in my backyard. Like, dude, it's
Well, did you get him out there with all the Baywatch babes around him?
Oh yeah.
no. I got one where he's plowing over Jeffrey Epstein. Like,
Yeah, okay.
it's just awesome.
That could be bad for your career if you got associated with that guy.
Oh,
But,
it's
whatever.
so great. Yeah, but it's like he's plowing over Jeffrey
I
Epstein,
get
so
it, I
everyone's like,
get
okay,
it.
that's
I just-
cool. Right.
Man, I
Going
got
for a
a
cheap shot.
I got to tell you, I don't know. Are you guys having the same experience? Every chat group that I'm in, like hacker chats,
It's
private
AI.
chats, everybody that we devolve into this exact conversation.
Mhm.
In like all we're talking about is what models are you using? How are you using it? Like what? And then like always there's somebody's project that so now we've got 50 websites that we've got to go look at or whatever that they
Yes.
vibe coded and but I gotta tell you, man, like every chat group I'm in right now, this is the only topic.
Agreed.
Is AI.
I don't.
Right.
On a counterpoint to that, I will say yes, that does go on, and there's definitely people that message just about whatever they're doing in AI. But I actually like using it with people that don't use AI at all, or that are like really not tech savvy, and making kind of humorous things like for.
Yeah, I know. My non-tech friends were like, dude, like, how much time are you spending putting Shane in like all these different scenarios? I'm like,
Right.
it's literally like a 20,
It's
30 second
nothing.
query to Grok.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you, like,
Exactly.
like, how do you feel about it? Like, is this a trend? Is it going to die, or is this what computing is now?
No, I think this is where computing is. I think it's for more experienced people, it's a hugely powerful tool.
Mhm.
For less experienced people, they might struggle a little more. But I think for those of us, right, like most of us all of us on the call, all of us listening, like it's a great tool because we understand the technology, right? And now it is enabling non-technical people as well, but I don't think at the same level,
Yeah.
right?
I gotta tell you, I
but-
don't think I've ever been as productive as I am right now.
Yeah,
Like
agreed.
every project,
sure.
every strange ass weird idea, it doesn't matter. Like if I have an idea and hey, maybe this will be cool or maybe it won't, then do it. Just go and
Yeah.
send it.
See what it comes up with.
Yeah,
Right.
send it and it either does or it doesn't. I don't care. Just go. Right.
Right.
And I got to tell you, man, it feels so liberating being able to do like code, write, do anything right now. Just go. Like, I think it's great.
Do you feel like it's liberating in a way because it matches what your internal processing needed but couldn't get from other people in a fast enough way?
So that's an interesting question. And I would say no, it was, I get what I wasn't getting from me because I'm a procrastinator, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so like, hey, I've got a really great idea for a project. So I'll stick it there and I'll work on that someday. Never did. Right. You know what I mean? Never.
Yeah,
Never
but
got
like,
back around.
like ADHD thing, like I know I can
Oh,
have
for
all these
sure.
command line options and
Yeah.
document each one of them, but that is such, especially the ADHD brain, that's like uninteresting task and
Right.
uninteresting coding. What I love about the AI agents stuff, be like, look, I want this program to do this thing, and that's the interesting part. But also create all these command line options, so from the command line I can configure it and document all of them, and it just does that. And I'm
Done.
like, oh, it like gets me over the hurdle. I'm like, that's great.
Mhm.
Now I can focus on what's the actual task it's doing and let the AI go, yeah, I'm going to give you a command line option for all those things. By the way, I'm going to write all the code to do that, which is uninteresting. And by the way, I'm going to document each one, which is also uninteresting. And I'm going to do that for you.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, and what is Jason Haddock's thing? Josh Morpet was telling me about this.
Listen,
how do you pronounce that?
I think it's
Arcanum?
Arcanum. I think.
Arcanums?
So it was maybe a year ago, and this changed my life forever. Quite honestly, I was on your show, and you had a guest that was he was teaching kid. Now this is a year ago, maybe even longer, right?
Sure.
He was teaching kids about AI, and he showed this website called Gandalf, and it's a very simple game where you have to, it's maybe 10 levels, and you have to convince a kid to give you the password, and then a teenager, and then an adult, and then and they get harder as they go on. And I got to tell you, Paul, like that changed my understanding of the way prompt injecting worked. Right. So, and we're talking like a year, only a year ago. Right. Like, but now I get it. Right. Like now I understand what prompt injection, Jason Haddock's well-known hacker, like,
right. I was thinking of Daniel Miessler too has a thing that Josh was talking about, PAI, open source framework for building personalized AI infrastructure. A couple of projects. Very similar from what I was reading about Jason Hack's thing too.
Well, so what Jason released, and it's my story number one, is essentially a conglomeration of all of these games that you can play, prompt injection games that you can play. So, just Jason being Jason, he also has a page of all of the example prompt injection, like the prompts that you should be using. So think of it like a penetration testing guide, like a red team guide against AI, right? So like if you're going to, and this is a game that he's got up there, and I think it's linked to somebody else's, but he's got them all indexed. But there's a game where you're talking to a sales, you're trying to buy a ticket to a cybersecurity event, and you have to convince the AI to do all kinds of crazy things. Send the CEO an email as a different, but
okay, so this is different from Daniel Miessler's thing, but yeah,
it is incredible. So what it feels like, it feels very, very similar to like the Sans Holiday Hack Challenge, right? So it's not that same like interface or anything like that, but it feels like a game, right? It's gamified, and you know what level that you're on. Look, I'm on level 3 of 8, and so you know where the skill level is, and I got to tell you, if you are involved with any kind of like security auditor, review, pen tester, if your goal, if somebody may give you a AI chatbot interface, and it's your goal to see if you can bypass it, man, you need this resource. It is
That's awesome.
Fantastic. It is fantastic.
Going off on the AI theme just for a little while longer, AI generated passwords are a security risk. A cybersecurity firm tested ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, and found the passwords they create are highly predictable. So we're talking about how AI is great and does a lot of great things for us. There are things it's not good at. Apparently, generating passwords is one of them, which it kind of makes sense, right? It's not going to be good at randomness is hard.
Randomness is hard.
Yep, and that's I don't know how much more we want to say about that, but.
Well, I saw an article. I don't think I didn't include it, and I'm going to get it wrong. But I saw somebody asked an AI agent, I don't recall which one, to write a list of 41,000 first names. And it said it sure does like the name Clifford or something like that. It was like out of the 41,000 names that it randomly generated, Clifford was like 30,000 of them or something. Because
interesting,
random is hard.
It does sometimes. It doesn't do well with large data sets like that.
That's true. So what that is that's context, right? That's context window being blown out for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's interesting. First of all, hold on a second. I want to stop the presses. Who's asking AI to generate their password?
Yeah, because that's bad. Because then it ends up in the it ends up in the model, right? Because then we can just
I guess
ask the model,
technically you can do that with Lumo.
So, I mean, I wouldn't. You know what? I think there are people that are doing it, but I don't think they have. They're not even thinking about it. I mean, is AI being used for the wrong things? Yeah. Do we have our favorites?
Right.
My favorites are all the wrong things.
Yes.
And I don't mean creating naked pictures of Larry. That's not what I meant.
That's still the wrong thing.
You mean advancing bad actor?
That sounds like something right to me.
Well,
So I want to talk about I want to transition and talk about the Bloomberg article. I thought we had one more AI thing to talk about, but if I remember it, we'll cover it. But my story number 17 actually somewhat relates to AI in that. So this was a Bloomberg article, and Bloomberg has a paywall for their articles, and I won't discuss how I bypassed that, but it's, you can very quickly figure that out on your own. However, the bypasses, when I looked today, were all down for some reason. So there are all right. I mean, we can all figure it out. There's websites that you can paste the URL in, and it will de-paywall them, right? And so I'm not telling you anything new. This is pretty much public knowledge. In fact, you could probably query an LLM, and it would tell you. Maybe it would. If it was Grok, it'd definitely tell you. Which is funny because this summary actually comes from Grok. So, like, I saved this article in one of those de-paywall things so that I could read it. And then when I went today, those paywall things, de-paywall things were down, and Grok was able to summarize it for me. But I read this article word for word, and it's probably one of the best articles that I've read all year, for sure. One of the best articles I've read in a long time. And so digging into the article content, basically it focuses on Ivanti, which is formerly Pulse Secure. They rebranded the product to Connect Secure, but the company they bought was Pulse Secure. And there's a history of acquisitions with this technology. And I want to say Ivanti was bought by private equity. I'm kind of fuzzy on some of the details, but like basically, I think private equity bought Ivanti and then funded Ivanti to buy some of these other cybersecurity companies to consolidate it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a
right. That tracks,
strategy.
Right?
Yep.
And so Pulse Secure was really super popular back in the day, and then hit this like hockey stick, growth pattern when the pandemic broke out. Like if you remember the early days of the pandemic, everyone was like, crap, everyone's working from home. We need more VPN technology. Yep. And the spend on VPN technology was off the charts. And it's kind of dumbfounding to think about, like, did no one consider that the hockey stick would then come down from that? Like right. That's business 101. I mean, no one has a crystal ball, but like still you can kind of, see the writing on the wall. So the VPN technology was widely used by U.S. federal agencies, Air Force, Navy, Army, Department of State, NASA, thousands of private companies, and over 2,000 banks, including banks like Wells Fargo, like one of the largest financial institutions here in the U.S. And what's interesting, we did an interview with someone from a large financial, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they hinted towards changing out VPN and edge technologies based on security. My guess, and again, I'm not saying this is the case, but my guess after reading this article is it was probably Ivanti. Because what the article starts to go through is all of those aforementioned organizations, U.S. military, private companies, have ditched Ivanti since then because of all of the security issues that they had. And it goes into excruciating detail, including accounts from people who work there who chose to remain anonymous that gave the accounts of like, yeah, this is what was happening. Like basically they got bought by private equity, and private equity squeezed them down for profit, got rid of all the talented engineers, outsourced engineering to India, didn't put investments into the product. All of the talent that could have made inroads in securing and enhancing the product had left, were forced out, they were laid off, right? Because if you want to increase your bottom line, you take your highest paid people, who some of them are senior engineers, some of them are senior leadership, and you lay them off to get your bottom line to look better. And then it goes into detailing how Chinese state-sponsored hackers have had a field day with the Pulse Secure and Connect Secure products over time. They talk about the breach of the Ivanti systems where basically it was backdoored. And we knew that in 2021, I believe it was, threat actors had breached the Pulse Secure division, of Ivanti and backdoored the software, and then that software was issued out to customers. And I think we knew the details of that. I was like, is that new or that's not new? But it affected 119 organizations, which that number had never been made available publicly before. And there's been several campaigns since then. In my research, when I was looking at Ivanti, I was like, wow, if I were to create an attack demo as an example for Ivanti, like we got lots of great like research to go off of. Like we've got documented threat actors that are exploiting documented vulnerabilities with publicly available exploits against this platform. And when you read this article and it goes through the financials, it's flabbergasting, right? I mean, I'll leave it to Business Security Weekly, Enterprise Security Weekly to touch on those subjects a little more, and I hope that they do. But when you just read like some of the quotes from this article about how much debt they had, how much they were borrowing versus how much they were making, and they got themselves in trouble because they weren't making as much profit as sales started to decrease. They still had all that debt on the books, and now it's like, well, now like your ability to pay back that debt is diminishing. So they do this thing, I forget the term they used for it, but they needed to file for Chapter 11, but that looks bad. Right? For investors, for private equity, that's bad. So they do this thing where they renegotiate their debt. And the numbers were like, they ended up with like $350 million in debt based on profit that was like nowhere near that. It was just astonishing. Like it really explains why Ivanti is in the position that it's in today.
So interestingly, the way I get around the paywalls is not through a paywall service, but I actually just go take the article title and I do a search for it, and I'll find other publications who have covered it.
Yeah.
And
this was a pretty exclusive Bloomberg thing, though.
Well, I found a couple other magazines covering it.
Oh, okay.
One who kind of blew it and called said it's Citrix, but
yeah, they lump Citrix is in a similar
but what was interesting to me is that they talk about security tools to check their security products that were for themselves flawed. But the thing that jumped out at me, there's like, this isn't Ivanti's not alone here. There's other companies in the same vice of cutting down the financials, tightening them up, and they also are cybersecurity providers. And they don't list the companies; they list the investment, the VCs, not the companies that we worry about. I mean, if you look, they say like Vista Equity Partners, which doesn't do us any good if we're trying to figure out if they really own something we care about, right?
The financials are just mind blowing. So I did save a quote. So it said with $2.8 billion in debt on its balance sheet, Ivanti had less room to invest in upgrades, according to former employees. Then in March 2022, the Federal Reserve began rapidly rate hiking cycle, which would eventually roughly double the cost of borrowing for some of Ivanti's floating rate debt. So I'm sorry, the number was $2.8 billion in debt.
Oh my God.
So here's one that'll probably get smoke coming out of your ears, Paul. The financial calculus of private equity often treats engineering and security spending as discretionary costs to be optimized.
Yep.
That kind of hits right on the head of what you were saying, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And that's like, well, let's say there's a long list of really useful words that I really don't like saying out loud.
But to lose, and also losing all your major customers in that deal.
What were they thinking?
They weren't thinking. That's part of
they
the
were
problem.
actually they were thinking about one thing, and that was money.
Yeah,
but not just quick wins, not long term.
Not long term strategy. They failed on the long term strategy, and it cost them dearly. I mean, you look at the vulnerabilities in Ivanti and all the threat actor campaigns against it, and all the vulnerabilities. They tried to make somewhere in the article too. They tried to make a pledge for better security. Yeah, they hired a CISO. He was set out to fix that. And again, I don't have all the details because I can't access the article right now. But then they fired him after that. You were starting to make inroads. It seems like there was a point in time where you could try and save face and do the right thing, but then they were like, no, maybe that person cost too much or whatever, or they weren't willing to make the investment in security.
Well, remember a few years ago, Ivanti was like buying all kinds of stuff. Like they bought Mobile Iron, and now it's
Now it's that, but
EPMM or
EPMM just had that huge campaign that broke earlier
it's-
this week or last week, right?
Yeah, and we thought it's growing pains, and Ivanti kept saying, "Look, we're getting our arms around it. It's just mergers and acquisition." Now, I read this article and think about that again.
That's right.
I mean, it's no, they're just that's a secondary concern. They just want more products to sell as quick as they can. I'm like, will they ever fix EPPM, or should we? I can't say the acronym right. Sorry, guys. But or should we move on to a different product? I mean, I don't have it, but I know folks that do. And I also know I had a relative to work at Mobile Iron. It was a decent company, a decent product.
Yeah, it was back in the day.
Yeah. And he worked his butt off. I think he even took it to his CEO and discovered that was like a much bigger chunk of pie than he wanted to try and swallow.
Yeah. I mean, this is a must read. It almost makes you want to pay the $2 a month for Bloomberg just to like go back and read this article. Some of the summaries say, this piece frames it as a cautionary tale about how financial pressures and private equity-owned tech firms can undermine cybersecurity in tools critical to national security and infrastructure. Like that's just spot on. That's exactly, in my mind, that's exactly what happened here. Now Avanti's trying to save face and be like hand wave and be like, no, that's not true. They had some official statements in there that were trying to like basically debunk everything. But I mean, Bloomberg had so many accounts from former employees, and all those pieces kind of fit, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone was really blowing smoke or making stuff up when I read it.
So,
like that's
it's interesting.
to me what happened.
In my time when I was, working in government, when we had a product from something like an Ivanti and it was acquired, we were supposed to reassess the risks of the company. Most notably when it was acquired by a foreign entity, because not all the foreign entities are our friends. But this is like kind of casting it anew. It wasn't that they necessarily were acquired by a foreign entity, but they sure as hell outsourced everything where it shouldn't be.
Yep.
Well, I mean, and I do a lot of work with a lot of PE firms, so I don't want to weigh in too heavily here. But I think that when you're talking about the reassessment of a third party risk, right? Even like you can't just make those are good. Like those are good in like points, right? If they're going through an acquisition or if they're bringing other things on, but man, think about imagine where, and again, I don't want to talk too much when I can't wait to say this, when Pulse Secure, whenever you said Pulse Paul, I was like, oh, he's going to say Pulse Security. He's going to say it.
I almost interjected on that.
I know. But, imagine like when they were on that upswing, after COVID, right? So they're onboarding all of these customers. They have all of this infrastructure cost. They have all of the, all of these things that the development dollars that money is not going to development. It's just trying to keep your head afloat. Right. And so what ended up happening is, and then you start paying down that debt and you still don't have the ability to fix the product. Right. So, third party risk can't just be, it's like a pen test. It's a point in time, right? When you did that totally assessment, agree. Right?
Well, they also changed their pricing and packaging model from you pay as a lump sum up front and you get the product to a subscription model. And that seriously hurt their revenue, right? Changed their revenue significantly. And when you already have that much debt and then you're going to a subscription model, like there's a huge gap in your revenue. People aren't paying up front. And with the subscription model, I don't know how the cancellation works. You don't ever get that rest of that money, right?
Yeah.
They can cancel their subscription, maybe pay out the rest of the year, but they're not renewing at the end of the year. And that hurt them as well.
Yeah, that's a clear indicator.
Article.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's talk about Bluetooth.
I bring that up. Larry was in the house. We could talk about Bluetooth. Oh wait,
yeah.
Oh wait, hey.
Well, because I feel really bad for the Guthrie family and that whole situation, and I think Dave did a great job in using our skills and knowledge to help that situation. I don't know, Larry, how much you've looked into pacemakers or know about that. My understanding is that they still beacon when not in range of the phone. and there's ways to find people based on that. I want to get your take on that, right? Because this is what kind of sparked these. Now there's numerous BLE projects. I mean, 3 of us worked on one as well.
Yep. I mean, and there's another BLE project about some smart glasses stuff that it's kind of interesting too, because it's something that Bill and I worked on that wasn't really close. And that was the original application, was using one of those cheap yellow displays to do exactly that. Now there's an app on Android to do the same.
Right.
But so the stuff that I looked at in the pacemakers, it's arguably really hard, and I haven't looked at a new pacemaker. But the pacemaker technology that I was looking at, a couple of years ago, the only way that radio stuff would be turned on was like if you were, say, at the doctor's office, so that it could download data, statistical data, or they could find out how many events you've been having or any of those types of things. But the kind of the deal is that I guess these new Bluetooth low energy ones have the ability to talk to your phone. So if you have an event, it can be in real time and talk to talk to your medical professionals and so forth. The problem really here is that these devices are implanted with battery. The battery is finite, and unless you have a way to charge them through electromagnetic induction, which gets warm, using Bluetooth low energy to do this type of stuff is going to be very power hungry. And quite honestly, what the way how you replace a battery that on a pacemaker that doesn't have one of these through skin charging things, you go surgery and you replace the pacemaker, you replace the batteries.
Right. But I'm told that surgery is not like hugely invasive kind of thing. Like it's an outpatient kind of thing.
It's still surgery.
It's still surgery. I don't want to downplay it, but it's not like major surgery from what I understand. Because I think I was talking to my wife about this, and she's like, it's actually pretty routine for people to come in and have the battery swapped out on their pacemaker. And it's not. It's still surgery. Right? Not downplaying that, but it's not like major surgery.
I know. I was with my uncle when he got his first pacemaker, and it was a few hours. I mean, he was out the same day, and then he has to go and get his batteries replaced, and they have to do it within a very set time period. Once the battery starts sending a very deep, specific thing, they have a very short time period to change it, and they have to wait until that. But the procedure itself is very fast.
Yeah. Okay, that was my understanding as well.
Yeah. Agreed. But you still have to go. You
still have to go to the hospital and make an appointment and go in and have an outpatient procedure. Yeah.
So I question whether these devices, the pacemakers, are active enough to have one of these types of tools that Dave proposed and delivered to law enforcement install stuff actually be really effective. Because I wouldn't think to conserve battery life that these devices are typically beaconing very often for you to detect. Because of battery life, because they got to do a whole bunch of other things with that battery, includes saving your life. So to detect a beacon, you might need to send a signal out to have it wake up, but that means it's still listening, which means it's consuming battery power.
Right.
Listen.
I see.
So I know when some.
But what you're saying, Larry, is it's not going to beacon like other devices that are plugged in or have larger batteries where it can beacon all the time and it doesn't matter. The pacemaker is trying to conserve battery. It may not be beaconing at an interval that we're accustomed to with other kind of devices.
Yeah. I mean, it may be beaconing, once a day.
Right.
Once a day to that beacon to your phone to check in to get an update to send a thing to your doctor. Like that would be some really good power save type of stuff.
Right.
But that said, I could be completely way off base here. I have not looked into modern pacemaker technology. I know that they do have wireless interfaces, but they needed to be put into quote programming mode, and that programming mode or the doctor mode was through a special device, and it was, from my understanding, it was basically a magnet.
Yeah,
you put on.
I've seen that before.
Tripped a reed switch to enable the radio so they could do the download and the communication or the reprogramming, and then when the magnet was removed, the radio was off. So
Right. Oh, that's interesting. I've seen that in like knockoff OMG cables. Use a battery that you put on it to put it in programming mode or DFU
It's
mode.
a magnet. Yeah, it's a magnet.
yeah.
It's a magnet. Yeah.
I mean, that's a I'm a Dexcom G7 user, and that's exactly how those things come packaged. Every one of
Is
them
that your
I use,
blood sugar monitor?
yeah, my glucometer.
Yep.
They come with a magnet in the dispenser next to the device, and when it's removed from the dispenser, it's deployed. The magnet is no longer next to the device, so that the radio can turn on, go into discovery mode, and so forth. And in fact, I save all the magnets from from the dispensers every time. And I've actually used that because I had one that was not pairing and it wasn't acting erratically. So I went to the refrigerator and grabbed one of the big, strong refrigerator magnets and was like, to reset the radio, and it worked. Right. So yeah, in those, the packaging has the magnet to keep the radio off. But in like the doctor programming, it's put the magnet there to turn it on.
Gotcha. Yes, the opposite.
Yeah. So, it would be great to think that that some of the stuff would be usable. And I think Dave has a really good handle on this from his SIGINT background.
Sure.
But I think it's going to be really, really tough. I think you're more apt to find a phone or some other Bluetooth low energy device that may be on the person, whether that be your Apple Watch or something of the like.
Yeah, it's interesting. It gets me thinking, like, you guys created the one that looks for air tags, right?
Tracker detector.
Yeah. And then I did some work on that and created my own version of it. And I was like, that's cool. It can detect air tags. And then I saw the story about the pacemaker. And then now I'm thinking about the glucose monitors. And then we saw the story about an app to detect nearby smart glasses. These are, correct me if I'm wrong, these are essentially all the same things. Like you're listening for Bluetooth low energy and you're listening for what's in the air. And then based on the signature of those transmissions and packets, going, that's an air tag, that's a pacemaker, that's a glucose monitor, that's a smart glasses. I'm like, so
that's a Tesla.
Yeah. Why don't we all have a device ESP32 based or an Android app on our phones that can do that, right? And I've actually identified two projects, the smart glasses, and then someone created an ESP32 one that is very similar to that I put in my stories. Number 16 is called an OUI Spy ESP32 firmware, has a detector, something called FlockU, Fox Hunter, Sky Spy in one build. And it's based on the Seed Studio ESP32 S3, which is hilarious because I'm like, that looks really familiar. I think I bought one of those on Amazon when it was on sale. Turns out it wasn't on sale, but they sell for the amazing price of $9.90. So I bought one for that price in October of 2024. It is the same price on Amazon, which I was glad to see. The tariffs and all this other bullshit hadn't impacted that. And it's a very, very small little ESP32. So now my task is, I know I bought one. Now I have to go find it.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Where is it?
Crap.
Well, if it was Bluetooth enabled, you could never mind.
I know, right? But it's not powered on right now. It's in a Rubbermaid, bin or container somewhere, I think, in my office. But
speaking of
Mandy, you had a comment in there.
Oh, I had a few. So first, going back to the Bluetooth thing, our friend Lab Fox, Emily, who was on the show, the one who did the fake pregnancy belly and the social engineering.
Yeah.
She's the medical device penetration tester and stuff. She happened to message me at the start of the show and said she'd signed an offer for a new job. She's been in a job search. So I want to congratulate her that she did sign an offer today.
Nice.
And I did message her about the Bluetooth stuff and the pacemaker. So if she gets back to me, we can include that. And then speaking about the meta glasses, and I'm thinking they're going to have to install those detectors in hospitals. This week, walking through hospital, I saw for the first time notices that you're not allowed to enter this office wearing AI-enabled glasses or other items. So that might be a market. Is like we need to spin up a whole bunch of ESP things and start selling them to hospitals and stuff because
that's it. Because
they can't
interference
have people.
is that interference?
It's probably like privacy.
HIPAA. No, I think it's HIPAA.
Yeah.
They
It's
can't
HIPAA.
have
Okay.
people recording all over the place in all of the sensitive areas and other
Interesting.
people's information and
Well,
stuff.
I also worry about interference because when the Apple Juice attack came out, right? And we would run those attacks and then realize that it could cause interference with medical devices, with things like glucose monitors, pacemakers, and the like. I kind of changed my tactic on how I would execute those attacks, right? So we're in this world where we need to monitor what communications are happening and what impact they can have in our surroundings. So we need monitors, we need alerts. Perhaps the devices also
This
need to
is
be
like-
more resilient too. I think that's something we talked about in Apple Juice, right? Is that if you're flooding Bluetooth low energy spectrum with certain kinds of packets, what can that impact? We probably, and if this is a medical device, the FDA can get involved in making these devices more resilient, right? Because we don't want to see poor Larry lose the ability to monitor his glucose. I was coaching soccer and I had a player on my team that he had a glucose monitor. I think probably similar model to what Larry has. And I was like, his parents would come over because they were monitoring him. And if his blood sugar got too low, would bring snacks to him. I'm like, wow, if someone were like jamming that space, it could be a health issue for this poor like young kid or anyone. And I'm like, that's bad. So I think this is an interesting problem that we have today.
Yeah,
It is. I feel like it's like a new iteration of what used to be the airplane mode issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up too. Yeah.
You remember when we used to have the detectors for people wearing Google Glass? The glass hole detector?
Well, there's detectors for Flipper Zero too, right? If someone's launching attacks on a Flipper, we can detect that as well. So because it's all in the air, we can detect it all. But the problem is, what do we do about it, right? How do you go if you're in a crowd of thousands of people? How do you detect who's doing what? Which is why I'm advocating for especially medical devices to be more resilient to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's where it has to start, Paul, because like you've done this, and Larry, I think you teach a class on it. When you start scanning Bluetooth and BLE just to see what's out there, there's just so much, right? There's no way that you're right, Paul. It would need to start with devices that are that could impact health, livelihood, whatever. They need to start with that resilience, right?
Yeah.
Is it just glucose and pacemakers, you think? Are there other devices?
I think there's a lot of other devices.
Hearing aids. Hearing aids was the other one.
Yep.
I was going to bring up those
aids.
glasses.
Yep.
Yeah, but
Yep.
what about like prosthetics?
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, can you imagine if you were able to take over like a prosthetic or something? That would be devastating.
Yeah, right. It's interesting how we think of these things as hackers, like, oh, it's cool to interact with the world and affect change in the real world, right? As hackers, we're like, oh, it's really cool. Like Apple Juice is a great example of that. Like, oh,
it was hilarious.
We can totally mess up people's iPhones, right? And there's nothing you can do about it. And when it's someone's iPhone, it's typically not life-threatening. I mean, it could be.
It could be.
Most cases, not, right? I mean, but also
if the person's a teenager, it is.
It is. But if you're in a dangerous situation and you need to get access to your phone to call 911 or go for help, and someone's jamming that or purposely impacting your phone so you can't, that's a problem, right? But that's different from a medical device. Medical devices, I think, need to have that resiliency for sure. Oh, so I want to talk about my story number 16 because the person who put this GitHub together, which is interesting now that I look at this person's GitHub, Claude is a contributor to it, which is awesome. So it has multiple different modes. Did we lose Bill? What happened?
Yeah, he says his Riverside just locked up.
Oh, that sucks. So it has a detector. So this is a BLE alert tool that continuously scans for specific target devices by OUI prefix, MAC address, and device name patterns. I feel like this is something we need to double down on, right? We need to have a really robust, comprehensive library that we all collaborate on to detect these devices that are nearby. Then it has lock onto a MAC address, then follow signal strength, so you can track someone. That's interesting too. Like, Larry, if you've got a glucose monitor, I can kind of follow you around, right?
Yep.
I can track you on it. Detects flock safety surveillance cameras is the other one. So it has these different modes that you can boot into on the ESP32. Then it has passive drone detection via FAAA remote ID, open drone ID, Wi-Fi beacon monitoring, listens in promiscuous mode for ASTM F3441 compliant broadcasts. Are you familiar with that, Larry?
I haven't looked into it, but yeah, I mean that's exactly what it is. So it's a Wi-Fi broadcast with your drone ID on it. So yeah,
that's interesting because we still see drones flying around.
Yep.
It was a couple weeks ago where I was with someone somewhere, and they're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "That's a drone. Like that's a big drone. That's probably a military drone. They're military base. Actually, where I live, in Rhode Island, there is a. Is it an Army base or an Air Force base? I don't remember which. There's a National Guard.
Oh.
Which is the one in Coventry?
Can't remember.
I don't remember if it's Army or Air Force. Yeah, like it's not far from my house. It's not far from my house. Yeah. And so we've seen drones, and again, my guess is that it's from that National Guard base in the town that I live in. So interesting that I wish Bill was still here. I wish Josh was able to join as well. But interesting that the research we dig into AirTags has come into like fruition, right?
Yep.
I feel like we should have like this kind of more master project, right? That works on an app that works on ESP32 that's able to enumerate all the devices in this spectrum. That's where I feel like we need more and better collaboration. I feel like there's a lot of disparate projects that are looking at it. We need to collaborate together so that we can have these detectors, and also not just detect what's around you, but detect any potential attacks in the area, right? Like if you've got your example, Larry, you've got a glucose monitor, you want to be able to detect if anything funky's going on in Bluetooth low energy so that it gives you an alert, like you may not be able to get monitoring of your glucose right now because someone's launching an attack. Because these are all in the air and detectable, right? Bluetooth, is low energy still 2.4 gigahertz? It's all...
Yep. It's all 2.4
It's all in the
gigahertz.
open spectrum. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, Paul, you're not wrong. It'd be nice if we had a sort of cohesive project, but that's the nature of open source. Everybody works on their own thing. However, like this is really easy to do. Bill, I think it's gone now, but the thing is, like the project that Bill and I worked on, it was really easy for us. Nope, I hear some echo back. It was really easy for us to expand that, especially when we just leveraged the Bluetooth low energy BD adders or the MAC addresses. Because just like Wi-Fi and Ethernet, there's an OUI table for the first portion of the MAC prefix, and if you just find the MAC prefix or the multiple assigned to that manufacturer, that's all you need to do to track it. It's super easy. Like Bill and I even talked about that. We added Tile, we added a couple of other ones. You could add Tesla super easy. Like you want to find Teslas, and now it's just
I can visualize the portions of the code in my head that did the pattern matching, right? In C++, right? The pattern matching of what am I seeing, and does it match this particular thing?
Yeah.
So I feel like we need to have one master project that we collaborate on to be like the ultimate Bluetooth low energy detector. That'd be cool. What I thought was cool was my story number 3. This is something like, I'm like, man, I'm gonna lose some sleep on the, like, I'm not gonna sleep for a while because I have a lot of Samsung TVs, both in my home. I don't know, Larry, how many Samsung TVs are left in the studio. We inherited a lot of Samsung TVs in the
So
studio.
let's put it this way. I did the math, and when I was at the studio last to grab some stuff, you said, let's split the TVs. And
Yeah.
we did. And I think I grabbed 7 because there are still 7 more in the studio.
Yeah, because I was like, I need a
Oh my
like I have a
goodness.
couple I want to put in my house for like hooking up a laptop to run Bamboo Studio, to run some of my printers for my kids.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, I need a couple for, if we expand the space I'm in now, to have like a mini studio here at my home. I'm like, I need a couple of screens. I'm like, other than that, I'm like, I don't know, take the rest of them. Like, let's just, like, 7 for you, 7 for me, like, satisfies our requirements for, are those like 40-inch panels? I think they're 40-inch,
I think so.
roughly 40-inch Samsung panels.
Yeah,
TVs.
and I think I already had 3 of them. Like, there's one hanging in my workshop.
Oh,
There's
I do
one
too.
ready
Yeah,
to
my
be hung in
TV
my
died,
workshop.
and I totally replaced one. I've got one here next to me that I already brought home. There was a lot of them, and they're all Samsung. And I've got the Samsung frame TV, which, by the way, the Wi-Fi stack on that TV sucks so much so. My family was like, every other day running into some issue. It wouldn't negotiate with my Ubiquiti, even though I created a separate SSID just for the TV that turned off a bunch of features. It still wouldn't connect. I ended up running an Ethernet cable to it so that it would work. And I mean, Samsung TVs are plentiful. And so this Bishop Fox research, which is incredibly detailed, talks about an arbitrary command injection vulnerability on this one. And it looks very similar to the Android debugger. It looks like there's a Samsung debugger, an SDB command. So it looks like you have to go on your TV and put it in debugging mode and then give it an IP address that it will accept debugging commands from. So the good news is this is not like a full remote exploit that you can just like be in range of any TV or be, from the internet and connect to a TV, that you have to purposely be on a TV, put it in debug mode, and give it an IP address on the same local subnet that it will accept debugging commands from. But once you have that, the Bishop Fox researchers figure out a way to bypass some restrictions on how to execute commands and have a full bash shell on the Tizen, looks like Linux, Tizen OS from Samsung, and you get a full bash shell. I'm like, well, this is great. Like, I want to remove all the crapware from my Samsung TVs. I want a bash shell on every single one of my Samsung TVs. So when it's having an issue, I can troubleshoot it. So I can do security research on it. So I can do security checking on it. Like, this is pretty amazing. It doesn't say that Samsung fixed it necessarily. It says Samsung's aware of the issue, but there was nothing in this disclosure that talked about like a new release from Samsung that actually fixed the issue. This is going to be a rabbit hole for me because I've wanted to root my Samsung TVs and I just haven't gotten the time and motivation to go.
And here I was thinking I was going to have to do the same thing on my LG TV that's in our living room, because I have been annoyed for years that every time you turn on the damn LG TV, it pops up the menu for the LG TV stuff.
They all do stupid shit, dude.
And then it goes away after a while. I don't want that. I found the menu setting about 3 weeks ago after years of this thing popping up because I just got so annoyed of it. And yeah.
So, Paul, I don't know if you guys can hear me. I think there might be an echo, but so I kind of missed part of that. Does this give you root access into those Samsung TVs?
Yes.
So we can expect maybe custom firmware or something like that for TVs.
I hope so.
It would be
I hope so. But my concern is if Samsung did fix it and your TV is connected to the internet and it auto updates, that this exploit path is going to go away. right? If it updates. So like I almost want to go take all my Samsung TVs off the network right now so that I preserve whatever version they're on so I can use this exploit.
Yeah, turn off automatic updates, right?
Auto
Until
updates.
You need. Yeah.
What is this auto update on your TV thing?
Well, I mean, also, like, from a defender's perspective, I think at one time when I was digging around the Samsung firmware, I'm like, I want auto updates because I'm going to put it on the network. I want to be more secure and have it get updates. But now I'm like, wait, if I can get a backdoor into it, basically, I don't want it to update. And the post gives you enough information to go do this on your own, which is awesome.
Yep.
Which is
Thanks,
one of
Matt.
the reasons why I love Bishop Fox.
Yep. Thanks, Matt.
Vinny Lou, right? Isn't it Vinny? No, it's Vinny Lou. Vinny Lou started Bishop Fox.
Right.
Yeah. Well, no.
But
no.
what are the possibilities
Signal, but from Mandy.
But
Oh,
I was saying, don't. What's the possibility of causing the TV to be bricked, though, if you're going to be in there messing around?
well, you got to be careful.
That we got
Almost 100%.
Yeah, Paul and I got
100%.
Yeah, Paul and I got 9 more. It's okay.
It's true. We got a lot of TVs to test on. Is one thing. I hope that Larry and I aren't in the situation where we're taking apart our TVs and removing flash chips or something, or reflashing flash chips. That's a lot of work.
Mm.
We could be there,
especially for free TVs or whatever.
The free ones I'm not, but like my frame one was really expensive, right? Like it's the one that looks like a picture, right? And it has the magnetic frames, and it's like a really nice. I don't want to break, but that's also the one that causes me the most friggin' issues on my network.
Well, get in there and run some Linux scripts that you wrote on there and update
There you
those
go.
Wi-Fi drivers or whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of hardware, I did have some articles in there that people did some serious hardware hacking on.
Wait, is that on 11 on breaking the OT devices?
Yeah, but we also got to talk about story number 9. I think Larry had this one too. DJI Romo is DJI's robotic vacuum. But this is like not new. We've covered stories where someone tried to hack their robotic whatever or scooter. I think it was a scooter. That's what it was. The e-scooter
a few
story.
Weeks ago, last month, yeah.
Yep.
In that case, the manufacturer had ended support for the device, and this hacker was like, "Well, I need to write some custom code and be able to manage and monitor my device." And in doing that, he was like, "Oh, I can control anyone's device." DJI Romo, same thing. No exploitation required. DJI servers accepted a token from a single Romo as valid authentication for all Romo devices. Imagine that.
Uh-huh. Yep. And then it was just left down to the MQTT pub sub topics. And if you I'm assuming at this point that if you just change topics to another device, you could interact with any device.
Right.
Yeah.
So many devices, so little time. My wife has been a huge fan of robotic vacuums. I think since we first started living together, we had one of the original like Roombas, right? Because we had a dog. We had a house together, our first dog, and she was like, "We need a robotic vacuum to pick up the pet hair." Like it was like mission number 1. And ever since then, we've had every single robotic vacuum known to man, because they all break, by the way. And then you got to do the warranty through Best Buy, and that only works so many times, and then you just got to go buy a new one. Which is every single one. Right now, we're on the Shark platform, so I have the world's crappiest Shark vacuum app. It is horrible, and I have 2 Shark vacuums, and it's not a great experience user-wise. And I'm like, maybe I just need to hack these vacuum, but like everything now is connected, right? So like our time, like where do you spend your time hacking stuff? I'm glad this person did the DJI Romo thing.
I mean, and it was completely by accident. All he wanted to be able to do is to drive his $2,000 DJI vacuum with an Xbox controller,
a PS5 controller. Yeah,
PS5.
Are they $2,000?
Yeah,
that's
$2,000.
a really nice one. Yeah.
Well, I'm not nice. Yeah.
Well,
but
expensive. I should say expensive, right? 2,000 to me, having been in this market for some time, right? Like $500 is like your basic one. $1,000 is a pretty nice one. $2,000, I'd expect a really nice vacuum that would mop and vacuum and go back to its base. Like the one I have is not $2,000. It was maybe like $800 or $900.
Does it
And
provide section? I mean, at $2,000, it better start providing sexual favors too, because like
that's a lot of money.
friggin'
I was gonna say for $800 or
That's-
$900,
If
my
it's not washing the dishes and
my vacuum will vacuum, mop, and do vacuum and mop, and it will go back to the base station. It will clean its mopping pad and automatically suck all the dirt and stuff out of the thing. And it has reservoirs for dirty water and a reservoir for the cleaning solution in the base station. And it'll go back to the base station. It's like, I'm cleaning my mop pad. I'm refilling my mop tray. And then it'll go back and it'll vacuum and mop like my entire first floor. And that was like $800 or $900.
And then run over a dog turd.
And it has. This one has. I've had, I think, 3 times, because it's such an awful experience, as the internet trope describes. It is such an awful experience that you remember every time that happens. And it has happened 3 times that I can recall. Varying degrees of awfulness. The last one wasn't. I caught it before it got too out of control. But yeah. Oh.
that does sound.
But like what,
I
for
don't know.
$900, for $2,000, let's just say, can it detect the turd and not run it over? Like, can we have
would
turd?
think. It
I've
should
talked
have
about
some
this before.
scent.
Years ago, I talked about this. Like, can it detect the turd? Like, I'm paying all this money for a vacuum. Detect
Yeah.
the goddamn turd before you run it over.
I mean, really, it
It should have
could,
scent
but
sensors.
I agree.
but now some guy with a PS5 controller could override it and make it drive over the turd while watching you eat cereal at 3 a.m. Right?
Right. Right.
And there's probably somebody that would record it and get 10 million views and make,
It's true.
$500,000 for it
Yep.
being somewhere.
Yep. So, Paul, we don't have a lot of time left. What else we got?
That same Bill's not here. I can go back to the list
I want to talk
Yeah.
about this one. So, O'Day.
It better be Mandy. It better be on Mandy's list.
Is it on my list? If it's not on my
I
list,
don't know if it's on your list, but my story number 6 I thought was interesting. So, the Sean Ryan show is a great podcast. Love Sean Ryan. He's had a couple of hackers on. One goes by the handle O'Day. What's his name? I can't remember his actual name off the top of my head. But he loves showing like the flipper style devices on the show, which I think is great. We all love hacker gadgets. We all use hacker gadgets. We all have flippers and other gadgets, right? And he actually showed in a recent video that he did that I look like a Ford kind of like conversion van or commercial kind of van. And he was able to intercept the key fob communications using that hacked Russian firmware on the flipper to be able to unlock and lock that device. Now, that can't just walk up to the car and do it, right? You have to intercept the key fob communications. So you have to be in range, and you have to intercept it while the person's pushing lock or unlock on the vehicle. Then from there, it can derive the pseudo random key generation to be able to unlock and lock the vehicle. And I think that's great. Don't get me wrong. But I think when we as hackers can captivate a large audience, right? Like Sean Ryan has a huge viewership and listenership. We can captivate an audience. I get it. You want to show the cool hacker stuff because you can have a physical device. You can cause effects in the physical world. And that's great. And car theft is an issue, and it's absolutely used in car theft today, and it's been documented. But there's a lot of other issues we have in cybersecurity, much of which we talked about this evening on the show, right? We've got vulnerable edge devices. We've got poor security in AI. We've got a lot of issues that real threat actors are doing on a massive scale. And I don't want the public, like general public, to get the impression that hacking and cybersecurity is just these like cool hacker gadgets. Look, don't get me wrong. I love hacker gadgets just as much as the next person. I collect them like they're going out of style. We write, Larry does, Bill, we all do. We write code
You
for
guys are
them.
already
We customize
entombed in
them.
them. Yes.
Yeah, like we're all invested in that, and it is fun and it's interesting. But that's a cool. That looks like a cyber
Nice.
deck, Larry.
It's the welder
Yeah.
keyboard. It arrived today. It's a keyboard with the screen that's touch screen.
Oh, I
wow.
love
built in.
it.
built in.
And hacker gadgets are sexy, as Larry's showing right now, right? But
Yeah.
I think the more pervasive issues are not related to physical proximity or physical devices, right? We've got Chinese nation state actors with so many campaigns that are wildly successful, attacking network edge devices and pivoting into internal networks. That's the kind of stuff we need to be highlighting to the folks as well, right? I don't want to ignore the gadget and physical proximity stuff because that is happening too. But I think more commonly, nation state threat actors, as an example, wildly successful with different kind of hacks. We need to bring those to light, which is why I love Dave Kennedy. Not just because he's my friend, but also when he goes on the news, he's targeting issues that are going beyond that. When I see him going on the news, he's not talking about hacker gadgets, right? He's talking about real issues we have in cybersecurity and how to address them to the mass population. I want to see more of that. So, like Sean Ryan, like if you're listening, it's great. What you've done is amazing. I'm a huge fan of your show. But let's also talk about the other issues we have in cybersecurity, because there's many. That's kind of where I wanted to end.
Yep. You're agreed.
Good.
You're right.
Final 4 seconds. Done.
Yeah.
That's it. And that, look at that. We'll end on that note.
I'm still here.
Bill's
just
still here.
Echoey.
Bill's still here. Well, we have a closing minute or two. I don't know if you heard my latest kind of rant, but my rant was basically, let's not.
Oh, I heard.
You
I
heard it,
listened.
right? So, like, what's your
Yeah, I
thoughts
was
on
still
it? Like,
here.
you're the gadget guy, as am I, as is Larry, right? Like, it is cool, but like, we need to focus on the real issues too,
Well, I agree with everything you said, Paul.
right? Like, let's educate people on what's really going on.
Well, I think that and it extends even to doing things policy-wise. I mean, even going to governments,
Policy
even
too.
doing other aspects, it has nothing to do with gadgets.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for listening and watching this edition of Paul Security Weekly. Larry, take us out.
Over and gadgets.
Good.
Go gadget.
Go gadget hearts.
Go gadget IoT device.